As someone who has been doing ballet for over 16 years, I know what to expect from a passe or soda sha. So I was incredibly surprised when I came across Chinese Revolutionary Ballet, that used the movement vocabulary of classical ballet to spread communist propaganda during the 1950s, 60s, and 70s in the People's Republic of China. It is definitely an interesting sight to see a line of dancers piqueing under a hammer and sickle. I wanted to learn more and discover the origins of Chinese Revolutionary Ballet. In the Communist Manifesto by Karl Marx, Marx identified two key terms for the different classes of people that exist in society that struggle against one another. The first of these are the bourgeoisie, the employers of wage laborers, and the owners of the means of production. In contrast, the proletariat are the wage laborers, owning no means of production. Marx noted the imbalance between the bourgeoisie and proletariat, which would lead to class struggle where ideally the proletariat would rise up and overthrow the bourgeoisie in order to achieve equality in society. Throughout the 1920s, 30s, and 40s, China experienced a harsh civil war between the Chinese Nationalist Party and Communist Party. At last, in 1949, the Nationalist Party was forced to flee to Taiwan, and China was officially under communist control, led by Chairman Mao Zedong. Mao adapted Marx's theory for the largely rural economy of the People's Republic of China, adapting the proletariat to represent non-land-owning workers, and the bourgeoisie to be land-owning elites. In 1942, Mao had held what is known as the Yan'an Talks, in which he argued that the communist government should use literature and the arts to share communist ideals. He believed that all art is political, even if it claims not to be. Out of what was outlined at the Yan'an Forum, Jiang Qing, Zhao Dong's third wife, brought about the Cultural Revolution in China with 8 model works, including ballets, operas, and symphonies. Ballet was first introduced to China by the White Russians, anti-communist upper-class individuals who had to flee Russia. They brought with them their culture, such as ballet training. Ballet was not regularly taught in China until the Cultural Revolution, however. At the Beijing School of Dance, Soviet dancers were invited in the mid-1950s to teach ballet technique and choreography. In 1970, Broadway actress Louise Wheeler Snow visited the People's Republic of China and was inspired by the ways in which China had developed ballet to utilize it for their own political gain. In her writing on her visit, she notes that in the past, foreign ballets were the only ones taught at the Peking School of Ballet. However, with the onset of the Cultural Revolution, new ballets emerged with Chinese origins, most notably The White-Haired Girl and Red Detachment of Women, both of which were model works. The combination of Soviet-influenced ballet technique expertly performed with stories of the working class, reclaiming the bourgeoisie art form of ballet, was instrumental in the use of model works as tools of propaganda. Snow notes the incredible precision by which the Chinese ballet dancers perform, with clear Soviet influence, but creating their own artistic expression through political statement. One of the ballets that is one of the 8 model works is Red Detachment of Women, which was originally a live ballet, debuting in 1964. By 1967, the work was promoted nationwide. The work tells the story of Wu Qinghua, a young woman enslaved by the tyrant of the South, a despotic landlord who imprisons her due to the fact that her father failed to pay rent. She escapes with the help of Heng Changqing, a Communist Party representative in the Women's Company of the Communist Armed Forces. Qinghua joins the Women's Company and accompanies them on an attack of the tyrant of the South's property. But her thirst for revenge is too great, causing her to shoot too soon on the mission, causing it to fail. This forces her to learn the lesson that one must always put the group before one's own selfish wants if one wishes to succeed. After receiving this valuable lesson from her mistakes, she is able to attack the tyrant of the South once more, putting her comrades before herself, killing the tyrant, and becoming the leader of the Women's Company after Chang Qing dies in battle and becomes a martyr. In her Reflections of Chinese Revolutionary Ballet, Louise Wheeler Snow includes a script of Red Detachment of Women from 1970. The political purposes of the work are incredibly clear in the script. A few examples of this are when Wu Qinghua is brought to the women's company and sees the communist flag. Quote, "She staggers forward and presses it against her cheek. Tears roll down her face." End quote. Additionally, an important plot point of the work is the way in which the tyrant of the South's greed is one of his defining characteristics that shapes his evil actions. In contrast, the working class are described as having strong class feelings that connect them to one another. Next, here are two excerpts from one of the most notable scenes from the work. In this scene, Wu Qinghua must learn the lesson of, quote, "Revolution is not simply a matter of personal vengeance," end quote. At this moment, the lesson is not only for Qinghua, but the audience as well. These citizens of the People's Republic of China are being asked to consider all the pains that the bourgeoisie have caused them. However, instead of acting out of revenge, they should gather with their class brothers and sisters, using their anger toward the greater cause of a proletariat uprising. What is most interesting about this work is that it only truly became popular in China after the end of the Chinese Civil War, with the Chinese Communist Party strongly cemented into power under the leadership of Mao Zedong. This shows that this work was not used to create a proletariat uprising, as this had already occurred. Instead, the model works were a propaganda tool used to justify the harsh violence against party opposition and the use of military power to enforce the legitimacy of Mao's government during the Cultural Revolution. Snow was awestruck at the way in which Chinese dancers felt passion not only for their performance art form that is ballet, but also for the choreography that they were performing. One dancer noted, quote, "Last November it was cold, but we felt warm in our hearts when we performed for the peasants. We get clay on our ballet shoes. This shows we are serving our socialist society, that our stand is correct," end quote. This shows the ways in which the Cultural Revolution was successful in prescribing the beliefs of Maoism to the Chinese populace through exciting mediums that attracted large cult followings, such as Chinese Revolutionary Ballet.